oh, they say it's the best to always be the dumbest person in the room because it means you're learning the most. It's like, if I went to like a neuroscience convention, they're just stratospherically smarter than I am about that. It's like, I'm not going to pull anything from it, If
I can ollie and I want to learn to kick flip, I'm going to hang out with people that can kick flip and tray flip. But I'm going to feel like an imposter hang out with Tony Stark. Not Tony Hawk, but Tony Hawk.
Tony Stark, widely known for being a great skateboarder.
Oh my gosh.
Hello and welcome to the Open Hardware Manufacturing Podcast, the podcast about making open source hardware. My name is Stephen Hawes.
And I'm Lucian Chapa.
And today we are talking about actually getting started. How do you start a hardware company?
Yeah.
Which is like a lot, but we're going to try and distill it down.
Yeah, the outline here is 4 pages or so, and I don't know if that was enough.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like, especially when we do some certain episodes like this, we're kind of skipping across the top on a lot of these things, which I think is okay. We can always come back and do another episode later to revisit it, but, these are the broad strokes of, like, if I only had an hour, which I do in this episode right now, to tell you some of these things, this is where we're at on, like, what things do we think are the most important to convey.
Yeah, and we thought this would be a pretty good one to start with and get people kicked and get that goal into motion.
Yep. Yeah. If you've been kind of waiting on it, it's a good time to get going on something new. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So yet again, Appa OG saving our butts with a topic request. This one's pretty old. Thank you, Appa OG, for the suggestion for the topic. This was back in March of last year, so this one's been sitting in our queue for a while. It's about what would you tell yourself as a young grad starting out? What are failed ideas? How did you deal with failure? How do you deal with balance, imposter syndrome, getting tired of the project? If, you're working on the same thing for a long time, how do you get going in it? Generally trying to start a new thing. You're trying to start your own hardware thing. How does that work? There's a lot of parts to this. And I think what we've kind of done is we've broken this down into like 3 broad sections of like stuff to think about when you're starting out, but they're all pretty disparate. Like it's not linear or whatever. They're all just separate parts because there's a lot of other weird things that happen when you're trying to start your own thing. But let's start with your philosophy. Like how are you thinking about it when you go into this?
That sounds good.
Yep. The first thing is that you're gonna do stuff wrong.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yes. And that's great. Yeah. And it's impossible to avoid. Like there's such a horrible survivorship bias of like things that work well. The only reason you know about it is because that's the one that worked. Mm-hmm. But there's a ton of other, like, great example, the Kids React YouTube channel. Are you familiar with this YouTube channel?
I think so.
They had been trying probably 2 or 3 dozen other formats for how to make their videos. And they finally tried Kids React and it exploded. And they're like, cool, this is it. But you only know them as the Kids React channel. For years, they were trying other things and it just didn't work out. Yeah. But you only know about that. So there is such a survivorship bias of thinking that, oh, this was my first swing and look how well this is going. That's just patently untrue. Yeah. Like it doesn't work that way.
I think about Post Malone's early music career. Just garbage.
You mean pre-Malone?
Yeah, exactly. Just Malone.
Just Malone.
But he stuck with it.
I'm not familiar with his early career. Was it not good?
It's just horrible.
Awful.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of genre it's supposed to be. And I don't think he did either.
He was just trying stuff.
He stuck with it though.
Yep. So being super okay with like doing things that are gonna not work well is you're going to fail. I guarantee you're gonna mess some stuff up and that's super okay. Just be ready to feel that disappointment and not let that discourage you. Is there a chance that your first swing is wildly successful? Yeah. Is that incredibly small? It's probably not likely.
All right, Stephen told me about this, like, was it a Buddhist story about the monk telling you to make 1,000 pots?
Yes, it's a Buddhist koan, which is like a story meant to help like monks in training, like achieve enlightenment, become bodhisattva. And yeah, so in the story, there was a pottery teacher and half of the class was told in the semester, make as many clay pots as you can. And then the other one was told, make the most beautiful pot you can. And off they go for the semester or the term or whatever it was. And at the end, the first group that had to make a lot, they had probably like 200 really, really crappy pots and 50 like kind of okay ones and 10 beautiful pots. And then the other group had 1 crappy pot because they spent all this time just trying to make this one vase. I think it was vases, this one vase, and they never like just tried another one. Like they just kept hemming and hawing over that one. But the other group had a lot of at-bats. They tried a lot. And at some point you have to just try and make a vase.
Yeah.
You know, and if it doesn't work, fine, make another vase. You're gonna have to practice a lot. So like, don't expect your first vase to be perfect.
And don't force it to be either if it's not a good vase.
Exactly. Yep. And this applies for us. We both have had ventures that did not pan out.
Mm-hmm.
Even together in college. It depends on your definition of panning out, but like shortly after we met, we worked on a project, which was honestly probably one of the most fun periods of time. I look back so fondly on this time. It was great.
Yeah, but it was a 3D scanner. It was like a rotary platform, and a Microsoft Kinect would scan you at different heights, and it'd all be stitched together in a software called Kinect.
Mm-hmm.
And we gotten a client to pay for the first one, and we built it together.
Yep.
And we both kind of lost interest gradually over time at different points, and it was a mess.
Yep. Yep. It just kind of, we made that one and it was fine. And then, it fizzled. And then I tried to do this whole thing where I would like make like wedding cake toppers using the scanner, where I'd like scan a bride and groom and print them out. And it would be like a custom wedding cake topper. And I drove around to all these bakeries and I'm like trying to convince them this should be a service they offer. And I probably went to 24 bakeries just trying to convince them this thing. And I had a little example and they're like, they were old school. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. I did a few of them, but it was like directly to the bride and groom. And like, it was just a mess. It didn't work. And I tried for like a year of solidly trying to make this thing happen. And it never went anywhere.
And we're going to have those.
Yeah. That kind of stuff happens, you know, like I had a whole project with a prosthetic arm, which I built a prototype of and decided to punt on taking it further because I didn't want to deal with all that stuff. And like that fizzled out too. And that didn't end up being the thing. And you had the printer.
Yeah, I built a folding 3D printer for like a traveling science show. It was open source and all that. And it was really cool, but it was just wrong partner, wrong time.
Yep.
It was a general mess.
Yep.
I didn't enjoy working on it.
Yep.
I could be working on it to this day if I chose to, but it was better for me to walk away from it.
Yep. And I think the fact that we've had these experiences, hell, we've even had them together on the same project, which is kind of cool, is something that you kind of maybe not have to do, but it's incredibly informative for moving forward. Mm-hmm. Like knowing what it feels like to fail and why it failed and, you know, avoiding the things that made it fail is incredibly useful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just part of it. We've failed at a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of other things too. Those are just kind of like the tip of the iceberg there. Yeah. But we've tried to do a whole bunch of things that didn't work.
And even in the scheme of like running a successful thing, you look back at it and you're like, oh, we failed in 20 clear ways. Yeah, it's always everything like that's always obvious in the past.
Yep, it always is. But like that's part of it. And like be ready for it. You're gonna mess stuff up. It's a weird thing to think about. Like I know in the next 6 months, I'm gonna make a critical mistake. Because I do. Because I'm a human being. Mm-hmm. And that's just part of what this means to like be a human doing things. You're going to mess stuff up. Accept it. Move on. It's part of the existence. You're going to learn from it.
I'm paraphrasing Edison, but he was like, he had to learn how to make the light bulb the wrong way 100 times.
Yes.
Before he had it right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Very much that. So you're going to fail a lot and that's fine. Like that just means you're learning about how to do this. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. And this also leads nicely into imposter syndrome. Do you ever feel imposter syndrome?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's imposter syndrome is this thing where you don't really feel qualified to be doing what you're doing, or you don't feel like you deserve it.
Yeah.
Or you feel out of your depth.
Yeah.
And like I try to be keenly aware of what I don't know and what I'm not like educated on yet.
Right.
So I think if I ever get imposter syndrome, it's like, oh, I'm approaching this problem that I don't feel qualified to be doing.
Right.
Right. And it's less so that I'm qualified and still feel that way.
Yes. Yeah, I see. Like I think I feel it, but it never bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm very keenly aware of like, we're just a couple clowns like making this thing happen. I'm very, very aware of that, but it doesn't make me feel like we shouldn't be doing it. It doesn't make me feel like I'm going to get caught, because I think we're pretty honest about that.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing to be caught about.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and I think part of that is accepting that like you and I are not the best at anything.
Yeah.
There's always someone and this goes for literally everybody. There's always someone that's going to be better than you. Well, except for that one person, but like chances are you're not that one person. Like just statistically, someone's going to be better at a thing than you. And that's not a reason to not start. I am far from the best person at prototyping, electrical engineering, even designing a pick and place. I mean, like there's a lot of people who are way, 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 way better at this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that doesn't mean you shouldn't give it a wing because you could still do it, you know? So I think that's a pretty big part of it, is like knowing that you're not the best at anything. And that's super okay. It's more about the collection of the things that you're pretty good at that makes you unique and like a secret weapon.
Yeah. And like for me, I've been trying to be more patient with myself. If I don't feel like I'm good at a particular task, like it's no secret, I'm not a software engineer.
Mhm.
No one should pay me to do code. Except in
I'll
Google
fight
Sheets,
you on this,
except in
Lucian.
Google Sheets.
I think underneath your Excel exterior, there's a little burgeoning software engineer ready to blossom.
And it's that point because I've been patient with myself and playing with like Python and doing some random things that I'm not feeling like it's this unapproachable vertical cliff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if you feel like, oh, this isn't a thing I do, then you're never going to try.
Yeah.
You know, like I never would think of myself as a businessman, but like when it comes down to it, that's what we're doing, you know, but like, I don't view myself that way. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't engage with that field, you know? Another really important thing here is that comparison is the thief of joy. I love this phrase. There's a YouTubers, Evan and Caitlin, and they do like a lot of craft stuff. They're very, very sweet. It's a fun channel to watch. They stream and stuff too. And Evan says this, or he said it, I think they had a podcast about starting YouTube that I listened to aggressively in early years. Yeah. One episode I listened to a lot. And he says like, I think it's from other things too, but comparison is the thief of joy is like such a, like someone will always also be more successful than you. And why think about that? Like for the sake of comparison, that's useless. It's not doing anything for you, except maybe for the fact of like getting a cool idea about how to go about doing it yourself. That's just going to tear you down. And there's no point in making comparison point. You're a different person with different starting parameters. You had a different upbringing. You had a different exposure. You had different benefits. You can't compare. You just can't do that. So trying to not compare is incredibly helpful, I found as well, of like dealing with like feeling like you're part of it, you know?
Yeah. I like to surround myself with people that are better than me at something I want to get good at. But if they're like miles ahead, I just feel like it's impossible.
That's an interesting thing. Yeah. Like, like, oh, you know, they say it's the best to always be the dumbest person in the room because it means you're learning the most. It's like, there's a point where like, if I went to like a neuroscience convention, they're just stratospherically smarter than I am about that. It's like, I'm not going to pull anything from it, you know?
If I can ollie and I want to learn to kick flip, I'm going to hang out with people that can kick flip and tray flip. But I'm going to feel like an imposter hang out with Tony Stark. Not Tony Hawk. With Tony Hawk.
Tony Stark, widely known for being a great skateboarder.
Oh my God. I'm going to feel like Jesus.
What an incredible, that was so good.
I would feel like an imposter hanging out with Tony Hawk. Like it would be useless to me to hang out with him. I'm sure he would teach me something, but
I bet he would. But like Tony Hawk's doing other stuff.
Yeah,
you know, yeah. But and I don't think that means you couldn't hang out with him. It just means it might be a little more approachable, unless he's putting in a lot of effort to bring you up there. But yeah, you know, it's not bad to have people be way better at a thing than you. It just means that there's stuff you can learn from them and to not compare. Because everyone's different. Everyone's got a different sitch, you know? So that's a huge thing. Like you're gonna feel inadequate in a lot of ways when you're trying to start this big behemoth of a thing. And that's okay. You are in many ways, and that's fine. You're figuring it out, you know? In other ways, you're totally got it under wraps, and that's also okay. Like you just got to roll with it.
Yeah, like it'd be impossible to come into Opula with the experience needed to already do it.
Yeah, almost by definition, we had to be building the plane as we're flying, you know, or like unless this is our second startup or whatever,
our second pick and place startup.
I think that's a one and done. You only get one at bat for pick and place startup in life, I think.
But yeah, it's like you're gonna come in not knowing how to do at least something. Yeah, and just be okay with that.
Yep, and we talk a little bit later about like kind of learning on the job, like learning while you're doing. But in general, when you're going through that, understand that's okay. No one's qualified to do this. There's a great, I am worried that there's going to be a lot of stereotypical cringy, like inspirational entrepreneur quotes in this. So I'm going to try and only limit to the ones I think are actually great. But there is one from Steve Jobs where he's like, you change how you look at the world when you realize that everything is built up by things of people no smarter than you. And I don't fully agree with that because there are people way smarter than me that like designed a lot of things that I probably never would or could. But they're still just people. And I think that's the important thing to remember is like, you get to do this. You get to take a swing at starting this thing. And like, it's very possible that you're very successful with it. So, don't discount yourself. It's really more the point.
Yeah, that's a good quote.
And then I think this is probably the most important point about like how you think about this is why do you want to do this? Why do you want to start a company? You could probably take a lot of this towards like open source project mindset too. Like it doesn't necessarily have to
Even
be
like
selling
a home improvement thing.
What do you mean?
It's just like, why do anything? I think.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Like why pursue a task? Right.
Yeah.
But I think it's thinking about what does it look like to be doing the thing? Like, so there's a YouTuber, Freddy Wong. He did the Rocket Jump channel years ago. It was like early aughts, I think, is when his thing was really going on, late aughts. And he has a great bit of advice of like, you have to like the work and not the end result. If you want to be a YouTuber, let's say, but you hate editing video, then you don't actually want to be a YouTuber. You want to have become a YouTuber. You know what I mean? Like you don't actually like the work of the job. Like I might like the idea of going to the, my family holidays and being like, oh, I'm an engineer, but sitting at my desk doing engineering, I might hate it. I don't like being an engineer. I like the idea of being an engineer. You have to really be connected with what the work is like and like that work. Yeah. I think is a important distinction to draw.
My trial is I've met a lot of people that have a job they hate and they're going through the motions. They're miserable.
Yeah.
And it's just, life's not worth living like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super not. And what was really helpful, like early on when Opula was just a tiny idea, I literally wrote a document. I've read it recently, outlining all the things I like to do and kind of summarizing them into like what things would result from this. What job would I like from this? And I kind of knew I wanted to start this whole thing anyway. I definitely knew I wanted to start all this stuff, but like, I know I like setting up systems and I know I like working with people and I know I like building things and like, okay, that aligns with like running a hardware company. That's what it actually means to run it and like solving problems. That's what it means to work here and like have that role and like steer the ship that way. So you have to like that, not just the idea of it, actually, what is your day going to look like?
Yeah. And I wholeheartly love it. Like, you're like, oh, I don't like people, but I'll put up with it. It's like, you're not going to be a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Nope. Nope. Doesn't work that way.
Nope.
Yep. You also need to be really aware of what your reward structures are. Because like, if you find reward and value in authority, praise, acceptance from authority, this is going to be pretty hard for you because you're going to have to find a lot of reward structure in self-directed tasks, right? Like if you're given an outline to operate on and killing the outline, and that's how you find value or you feel rewarded, this is going to be hard. Like this works really well with like, for example, I'm a partially recognition and also a lot of feeling of accomplishment and also the fact that I like that we make something that helps people make stuff. It makes it easier for them to make things. That's my reward structure is like that. The fact when I get a day of work done and I feel accomplished of like doing something that had impact, that's my reward structure. And I know that I would feel that from this whole organization being a thing, and perpetuating that. So I think that's important too, is like what pulls you forward, what gets you through, makes you feel motivated. And is that in line with this thing you want to start?
It's really not for people that see work as a means to the end or like a paycheck.
Yeah.
To let them go home and watch TV.
Exactly. Because as we'll get to later on, there's a lot of things that suck about this. There's a lot of stuff that sucks about it. And like, you got to be really sure you're ready to take that ride.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How do you feel like your reward structure is for working here? What's your pull on like why you're stoked to be here and like deal with the grubby hours and like, you know what I mean?
Open hardware has always been incredibly important to me. I see it as like the future of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's required of us in a way.
That's cool.
To do anything other than that, it's like almost silly to me.
Yeah.
And like 3D printers are a saturated thing. Electronics are so important in today's world that making a pick and place that's open is extremely fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
And I like doing things I'm good at, and I take such a sense of satisfaction from seeing something I think I did a good job on, like in the world.
Yes.
That people will enjoy and be happy with.
Right. And that's also very in line with the idea of like having a big impact. Like if you were, as we joke, the concept of bolt guy.
Yeah.
If you work at a large engineering company and all you do for 2 years is work on a single bolt, like they just say, all right, Bill, here's your bolt. You tune this bolt for the next 2 years. And that's all you do in a huge, conglomerate organization, whatever. You don't really feel the impact that you do. But like you and I make a change to the machine and like thousands of people get to experience the benefit of the thing that we made. And that's much more visceral. So it's kind of along those lines.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also a person that I love pressure and urgency.
Okay.
For motivation. I think running this is a lot of that for me.
Interesting.
Like, if I can hyper focus about something because I'm obsessed with it and I like the sense of pressure, urgency and importance, and I can just lock in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. I never knew that. I guess it makes sense thinking about, some of your structure, but it's cool to hear that that's like part of like what you enjoy about this.
Yeah. If there's like pressure, urgency and stress, it's like when my head's the clearest.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's super in line with like this being a great vibe for, aligning with what you want.
Yeah. Cause I'll just lock in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So like we know this pretty well, not only because, we've both thought about it a lot and also we're forced to deal with it a lot because it's our job, but be very aware of why is this important to you? What is your reward structure? What is your day-to-day likely to look like running this organization in whatever way? If it's an open source project, community management, having to deal with censorship, or if people say rude stuff, do you kick them out? Do you not kick them out? Do you give them a talking to, give them a second chance? Like, what's going to come along with that? What are going to be the challenges that come along with this thing you're trying to start? You have to like that.
Yeah.
Not just you're going to bed at night and you're like, I did XYZ. That's such a small part of it. Like you actually have to do the job. So make sure that you like doing the job. Write down that document of all the things you like to do and summarize, how it might be structured together well into a gig. Does that align with starting this organization, this company, this project, this whatever that you want to do? You got to make sure you like that.
Definitely true.
Yep.
Like when it comes to starting out now, like a big thing to really realize is there's no perfect starting point.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to tell you to go. The scene's not going to be set where it's going to be a fuzzy, murky thing where you're not sure.
Yep.
There is no, once I get to this point, I can start. Like just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no, if you're waiting for the perfect time, you'll always wait. It will never feel perfect to do it ever. It will never be. There's never going to be a time in your life where you're like, oh man, what do I do with this extra $250,000, no job and a ton of real estate on my hands? Whatever shall I do? Maybe start a hardware company. That's not going to happen. It's not. You have to fight uphill to get to it. So don't worry about the perfect situation to get going.
Yeah, it requires fighting some serious entropy.
Yes.
Resistance.
I think so much of like running an organization is fighting entropy. Like we're trying to create meaning and structure out of like the amorphous blob that is life and money and time.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just a constant battle. Life is entropy and we're just trying to add some structure and some value in it. So like expect entropy. It's not going to look clean starting it. It's just not going to.
Yeah. And there will be the wind will be against you.
The wind will be against you. And especially like we're talking very specifically about hardware here. There has literally never been a better time to start. Like if you want to talk about like waiting for the perfect storm or whatever, your personal situation aside, like just how things look like in the world right now, 3D printing is an incredible resource for making physical parts about it. PCBs are incredibly cheap. You can buy desktop pick and place machines, wink, wink, lumen, PNP, that make it very easy to make stuff. And there's free tutorials for any kind of free software that exists. Like it's literally never been a better time to start in the zeitgeist of the world. It's perfect to get going now,
And there's like college degrees worth of free education online, better than most universities.
Yeah, it's an incredible time to actually engage in doing this. And this doesn't mean like, all right, tomorrow I'm starting my company. I'm going to call a realtor and I'm going to lease a space. And it's like, no. That's not what I mean. I mean, like tomorrow's the day where you like do the next iteration of your prototype.
Yeah.
Or you like do some research about your market, or you do like, it's just taking the next step. It doesn't mean you have to start the company, right?
Maybe it's just Tuesdays after work until dinner time. I'm going to work on a prototype for my widget.
Exactly.
As simple as it needs to be.
That's all it needs to be. And that's what the Lumen was for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, for about a year. It's like you and I were still working at Formlabs, and I had, I didn't see you for a year outside of work because my weekends and evenings for an entire year that year was just making videos about the Lumen. Like, you can make it work.
Yeah. It'd be hard to not start small.
Yeah, you have to start small. It's going to be a lot of little baby steps to start, and that's okay. But it's just like, are you moving the needle? Are you making a little bit of progress? Don't wait for the perfect storm, because it's literally never going to come. The perfect storm would have been, I don't live in a super tiny cramped apartment in an attic with no kitchen in Somerville, Massachusetts, with incredibly expensive rent, making okay money at Formlabs. It was pretty decent, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And trying to build a hardware thing? I mean, that's insane. But like, whatever, you can still make it happen. So yeah, that's a big chunk of it.
You have to create the starting point.
Yes. I also, like, as we go through, we're going to talk a lot about things that you can control in this whole episode. I think it's really, really, really important to also mention that luck is a huge part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can say, oh, you just got to start until we're blue in the face. But like, we're really lucky. Like, we got super lucky with a lot of things in our lives, a lot of things in the scenario of how this project came to be. Like, so many things about this. My dad and I worked on a video book report in 5th grade. Or no, it was like 2nd grade, 1st grade or something, that taught me about video editing from when I was 6. I was like exposed to this. And that ended up being a great starting point for a medium of sharing this project. That's luck. The fact that we could do that when I was 6 years old was luck.
Or like my dad and I, when I was 10, built a CNC router together.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
it's luck and like the privilege to have the time to do that and learn things early
is huge.
Yeah.
So like, we're going to talk about in this episode a lot of things that you can control, but I definitely want to take a minute to point out, like, there's a lot you can't control, and we happen to roll the dice really well on a lot of things. And that's why we were even able to get as far as we have.
Mm-hmm.
So important to say.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with whatever cards you're dealt, there's a lot of things you can do to try and push things in your favor, but luck is a huge part of this. So I just want to make sure that is mentioned here. That's a very, very large part of getting going with all this stuff. It's just a roll of the dice on so many variables as well.
Perseverance, stubbornness, you can get more rolls of that die.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You can continue to try, and that helps a lot. Yeah. So that's a big chunk of it.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
Okay. So now you're getting going. You've decided that you're going to start working on this thing. A really, really important part of starting out with a project, company, whatever, is getting traction. Like, people need to see this thing somehow, especially if it's a company you're trying to sell it. You need to tell people that you're a thing that you can buy. And social media has worked exceptionally well for us. So much of Opula is built off of YouTube and YouTube videos that I've been making for like 5 years now or something, about all kinds of stuff, and mostly about building the Lumen itself. And I think this probably applies to most people. It depends greatly on your niche and what you're making. But social media is like kind of the new era way to tell people about stuff. You can pay for ads, like, I know I'll get an ad on Instagram from something that I think is interesting, and like, I'll buy it. Ads work, like they play a role. But for some things, especially if you're starting a hardware company, it might not be great.
Yeah. I'd go as far as to say, like, authentic social media that's personable is like required for business to consumer.
That's a really good point. Yes. And I think, so every time I think about social media and posting about social media, it is a balance of providing value through entertainment or education outwards and receiving value from like product awareness, right? Like, every time I make a YouTube video, I'm giving something away. I'm giving, hopefully, entertaining content for 15, 20 minutes, whatever, to the people that decide to watch, or information or something useful. And what I get in return is a little glimmer in their brain of, oh, the Lumen's a thing.
Yeah.
And that's the trade. And making that balance be fair is like super, super important. One of the most annoying things ever is like, people at the very beginning of their YouTube videos are like, don't forget to subscribe. I don't even know why I should yet. Give me a little morsel. I want to understand if this is something I like before you go asking. Give and then take, but that's what'd you call it? Like authentic media.
Yeah.
That's what that feels like in my mind. Is that kind of how you think about it? What does that mean to you?
Inauthentic would be like, you're not in good faith, or you're just trying to take, and it's a one-sided relationship.
Yeah.
But I think authentic is being yourself, treating people like a friend or someone you're being nice to.
Sure.
It's a balanced relationship.
I mean, a great example is Lumafield's social media. Lumafield makes a really cool CT scanner.
Yeah, and we have a lot of friends there too. It's a lot of X4M Labs folks.
Yeah.
Including their founder even. And it's a brilliant company with super cool blog posts, super cool advertisements. They'll show you like a CT scan of like an AirPod or your favorite video game controller. And like, I'd never buy one in a million years, but their social makes me well aware of them. And I know it makes me primed to suggest their technology to someone who might need it if I learn someone's challenge in conversation.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
That's all they want.
It's all they want. And if you ever get to a point where you're like, man, it'd be really nice to look inside this widget I'm making. Hey, wasn't there that company that showed me what the inside of a stick of gum looks like? Oh, we should go hit them, like, but you also like flipping through Instagram reels got 3 minutes of, wow, that's cool. That was a gift, right? They gave you something that way. That's a really cool way to go about doing it.
Yeah. And even from like a monetary perspective, like a minute and a half of like an executive or like mid-level person's time on LinkedIn is worth like $100.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can just get them when they're scrolling through Instagram, like before bed, it's a pretty good way to do it.
It's so much better leverage.
Yeah.
And it's more fun.
It is way more fun.
Yeah.
And this is all a way of saying of like, there's a lot of ways you can get people's attention. You can pay for ads. We've tried it. It's holistically failed for us. It's just like ads do not work for us at all, which should be a whole other episode about ads, I think. Maybe after we've learned a little more, because so far all we have is they don't work for us.
I think if we converted our ad spend to $1 bills, it would have been a better use of money for heat than our heating bill is.
To burn them?
Yeah.
I don't disagree. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It was a whiff. But like that was a lesson we had to learn. And ideally you learn it a little quicker than we did with a little less money spent. But you need to gain traction. This started all originally from the YouTube channel. And like that pretty holistically has driven a lot of growth for us and awareness about the Lumen. Having something like this is really, really valuable. It's to kind of have this kernel of a thing that pulls people in. There's also other great examples of this. Our first investor, Joel Spolsky, who started Stack Overflow, Trello. He's a great dude. He has a very similar model to how YouTube has worked for us with his blog. He wrote a blog through the aughts into the teens, I think the 20 teens, called Joel on Software. And it had a crazy monthly viewership. Like he had so many regular readers of this blog. Like it's an incredible blog. It's a great read.
And in maintaining that blog, he made himself an authority, a subject matter expert in the field of software engineering and entrepreneurship, and create a podium for him to tell the world about what he's up to and what he wants them to look at.
Exactly. He could take that loudspeaker and say, hey, look, I'm working on XYZ now. Whoosh, flood of people. Go look at that thing. So to create the Mouthpiece is a really valuable thing to be able to direct it at different things and be able to point people at whatever you want to be up to next. YouTube has worked that way for us. Joel's blog has worked that way. And you can go through his blog. Sure enough, every once in a while there's a post. Hey, I'm starting a new thing. Check it out. Okay. A few years later, he sells it. He sells that company. I mean, like it's a great model. So building your Mouthpiece is a really great way to get that. If it's YouTube, if it's Twitter or Blue Sky account of like posting updates on stuff, if you build a big Instagram, like some kind of social way, or even a blog. I mean, it depends on what your industry is, where you feel like capturing people. Try and find a place that you're going to gain these viewers, these people that are going to follow you and follow what you do.
I think of it as building a runway. And once you have that following, it creates like a very authentic, natural launch point for something to go from a project to a product.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There's Kevin Kelly has a great blog post about 1,000 true fans. And it's kind of about this idea of like, once you have 1,000 people that are like, will follow you with whatever you pursue, whatever you go do, you can kind of dive into anything. We'll put a link in the show notes about this specific blog post. It's great. It's very interesting. It's kind of following this mentality. You got to have the Mouthpiece, because if you just make commits to a repo, how do people know that this is a thing? Like, you have to be loud about it.
There's so much cool code on GitHub no one knows about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another
really important aspect of starting out is to just remember that like ideas are not precious.
Yeah.
It's not about the idea. It's about the execution of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of entrepreneurs are super cagey about their idea and they think it's like precious thing they can't tell people, but it's like, no, actually that matters so much less than doing the thing and doing it well.
Yep. And like the idea has to be good, you know, like Uber for picking up your dog's poop on a walk is like not a great idea. But like there are ideas that are bad, but ultimately that's not the biggest indicator of success. It's like how well do you actually make the thing happen is much more important.
I like to think of the world as such a big, chaotic place that there are no new ideas. And like,
yeah.
Anyone who thinks they're on to like the next big thing should assume that there's 3 other people in stealth doing the same thing.
Yes. And also it's kind of funny because like if you're one person with an idea, you don't have enough money to defend your quote unquote ownership of the idea. Like if GE wants to like take your thing, they will destroy you. There is no such thing as protecting it. If you're like, I'm going to work in stealth and get something out before someone else does. I don't care how good you are. When you put something out that you made yourself, a company will nuke you from orbit if they really want to. Like keeping it secret is such a minimal part of being a leader in the thing. Like they will sue you into oblivion if you try and defend it. Like they'll beat you.
Yeah.
That's not, you're never safe by keeping it quiet.
If anything, harkening it back, building a following, showing your process and showing the development gets the community willing to defend you.
Yeah.
Far more, which is far better ROI than like any attorney.
Exactly. And this also goes into like some of the benefits of open source is like being loud about it. You can always be cloned, but outpacing the competition with, not resting on your laurels and working on that, there's a lot of benefit there too. But all the way of saying of like, don't be so careful about your idea and like letting someone else get your idea. It's not that great. It really just matters about the execution. That's really the meat of the thing. Hell, when we started like selling lumens and stuff, other pick and places about the size existed. It's not like it was even a new idea, but it's about the execution. That's the thing that matters. How well do you do it? What's the customer experience like? That's what matters,
Mm-hmm. It's one thing to have an idea you think is like hot stuff, but it's a whole other to tell people about it and then go on to validate it.
Yes.
And like showing your idea to as many people as possible, getting feedback early on is paramount to success.
Yes. Yeah. You might have an idea and you're sitting there contemplating it like to yourself. You actually have no idea if it's useful. Like the whole thing about starting a thing is product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
Does a market go, yes, that's useful and solves a problem and is worth the value you're willing to, exchange it for? The only way you can truly know is putting it out into the market and seeing if a market bites. Did you get product market fit? The only way to do that is to throw it into the world.
Yeah. I always hear a lot of entrepreneurs talk about their idea as like, oh, we're pre-product market fit.
Yeah. That's a whole startup thing. Well, and it's a valid way to do it. Sometimes is like a lot of VC, like venture capital firms will throw a lot of money at a startup and they're like, we have this technology. We don't quite know what market it fits into yet. We're pre-product market fit. We're just burning money trying to see who wants this thing we made. Or like, how can we adapt it? And like, yeah, that does work sometimes.
It feels a little alien to me. It's less tangible than like knowing exactly who you might sell this widget to.
And testing it early.
Yeah.
Like, and if we're talking about hardware, it's way harder to like spin up a prototype and like test that out with people. So like, and this literally happened with us with the Lumen. Like, I was so like stomping down the path of like the Lumen is for manufacturing. It's for making, a moderate quantity, like mid-scale manufacturing. And it still very much is. And like a lot of people still use it for that, including us. But we were at Electronica, we were at a convention, talking to customers, showing it to people, getting feedback. And a ton of people were like, no, I want to use this for prototype runs of 200, which is kind of like mid-scale depending on what you're doing. But that was more of a market of people that wanted to use it for this quote unquote mid-scale manufacturing. But to them, it was called prototype runs at a huge company.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. You don't know until you bang it up against the real world and see where it's useful. You have to put it out there to understand that.
Or even just learn how to talk about it.
Yeah. But what phrase do you use that makes people go, oh, it's for that? Right. Oh yeah, actually I need that. You got to know what those words are.
I think about the laser cutter company there, Glowforge.
Yeah.
They don't call it a laser cutter. They call it a 3D laser printer.
Yes.
And like everyone in that building knows what a laser cutter is.
Yeah.
But and I'm sure everyone in that building also clearly knows that 3D laser printer connects with people more. It connects more with their audience. Mm-hmm. It's a more validated thing to them.
Yep. One of the most interesting, I'm glad you brought up Glowforge, because one of the most interesting things about their website, if you go to their like verticals or like industries, one of them is realtors. And when I first went to their website, because I was curious how they set up their website, all this other kind of stuff. And I was like, all right, why do they have a realtors category? And you click on it and there's a whole page of like, use this to welcome your, new, homeowners into their new house. Make this little sign for them or whatever. And I'm like, what a weird thing. No one ever goes, yeah, we're going to start a laser cutter company and we're going to sell a lot of them to realtors. Like, that's not a thing you go into starting a laser company thinking, but they sold 30 to random realtors that had the idea that it would be fun. And they go,
Okay.
Sure. Because they threw it out into the world and saw that people liked it. And then now they have a whole page for realtors and they convert realtors.
You might have an idea of how people will use your product or how they will interpret and react to your idea, but you don't actually know how your thing will be used or how your software will be ran before people can hold it.
Exactly. And I think famously Slack originally Slack was like an MMORPG game. And in the game, they had a little DM system for like chat. I could be wrong about this. I'm pretty sure this is the case.
Discord.
I know. No, Discord was, I think, made specifically for Discord.
Okay.
But Slack, I think this is true. I know it wasn't meant to be this. I think it was an MMORPG. But they built this thing in the game and they were like running out of money. And they're like, okay, we either close down, we pivot, or XYZ. Oh, by the way, also, we made this little DMing system that's kind of interesting. And they're like, oh, what if we just made that the thing? And they took this thing they made and they found their market. And Slack is now like a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company, or it was acquired, or even like something. I don't even know. Salesforce. Yeah. It's like, but it was a game and it pivoted that way. You don't know until you throw it out there and people will be like, I hate your game, but the DM system is awesome and I want to use it for work. And you're like, oh, okay, JK, now we're a work chat company.
And imagine if they had instead, like, everyone involved had sold their houses to make this crazy game that no one wanted.
Right.
They skipped all that by sharing it and talking about it.
Yeah. Well, kind of. They also burned a lot of VC money.
Yeah.
They're maybe not a great example of doing it quickly, but they did save it. They did turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
So, validating your idea by showing it to people is great. And like doing it in a quick and dirty way of gauging the interest without having to invest a lot, having to sell your house saves a lot of time. Do it quickly.
And in having an idea and having to make it, there's going to be a lot of learning by doing. Like YouTube and college, higher education, wherever you left off in school, it's not going to teach you everything you need to know to like bring an idea to life. So,
I would say YouTube is actually one of the places where you could
but not everything.
Oh, not everything. Yeah. Like that's fair. Like actually trying it is going to be a huge part of it. Like you actually have to kind of jump in, as much as you can try and take an MBA. Is an MBA way better at business than me? I'm sure.
Yeah.
But like, also there are things that I know that a new grad of MBA that's never like had to make a business decision, I know that they don't. So there's a balance, right? Like it's very hard to be actual real life experience, but also there's stuff you can learn from school, but there's so much of it. You just got to try it.
Yeah. You're going to learn more from like failure, breaking something, building something.
Yeah.
At least for me. And Stephen here to the same extent, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thinking back to like I have a degree in mechanical engineering and the amount of stuff from that degree I use on a daily basis is very small. I mean, it's more of like the skills of like priority management and like keeping track of a calendar and structure and like so some of the more like literal skills involved in just like the clerical work of like company management, like making sure I'm, write our rent check on time is like, yeah, I have thermo homework due Thursday. It's like same energy, right? But it's not like the stuff I learned in class is not really applied. It's been mostly self-taught stuff.
Yeah, I played school a little bit differently where I took the classes I cared about and picked a degree that got me out in 4 years.
Yeah.
I have a random art degree for 3D stuff.
Yeah.
With a bunch of engineering classes, like far more than a minor.
Yeah, you took a ton of engineering classes.
Yeah, I was like looking at the roadmap for a major and say, I'm not interested in that, not interested in that. I just
a
major's worth of random engineering classes.
Sure.
Is what you made of it.
Yeah, and it worked great.
Yeah.
It works great. So,
fun.
Yeah, and also like asterisk here, if you're going into like some like neuroscience deep tech startup thing, you need to have some PhDs on your team probably. Like school is relevant for a lot of stuff. For this, we could get it didn't happen to apply. My program was intended to feed me into like a Pratt and Whitney jet engine, like engineer company, like mechanical vibrations and thermo and stuff like that. That was what my degree was kind of like setting me up to do. Yeah. So like, of course it's not going to be super relevant to this, but just because your degree is not in the thing you're doing, it shouldn't keep you from doing it. You're going to learn most of the stuff you do by like actually getting going with it.
There's probably plenty of fields where like 90% of investors wouldn't pick up a call unless you had an advanced degree in it.
Yes. And those are the exception here. Like, you should have the degree for those kinds of things. But if it's pretty self-directed, like VC funding is going to be a lot of this too, like raising money. If you want to raise money and it's a crazy neuroscience thing, like they're going to look at the degrees that the founders have when you're raising money. That's going to be incredibly relevant, right? So that's part of it.
Yeah. But also self-taught, no college degree is a bit of a flex in other fields.
Yes. Yeah. It just depends.
Yeah, it's widespread.
It is. But if you're mostly self-directed, so much of what you're actually going to learn is like actually by doing it. So, don't let the degree hold you up too much, but it can matter depending on what you're doing. You can also help supplement by like having someone come on your team that does have that degree.
Yep.
And that helps a lot as well.
For sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Steve and I have a good overlap where we can speak the same language in engineering stuff. And I think we are foils in that we know what the other doesn't a lot of the time.
Exactly. Yeah. We know each other's weak spots. We also have a common vernacular of being friends for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we've kind of always done things that tangentially touch, but it's totally separate. Like, I kind of touched some of the manufacturing stuff when I was at Formlabs, and you were all the manufacturing. And I was like bug fixing and like software and like mechanical electrical changes. And you were like, how do they actually get implemented? Like, we happen to have really good coverage that way,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty handy. And all that was learned by doing. It was not from school. It was from actually learning that stuff on the job. You're never going to take a class on how to set up a customer support system.
Yeah, no.
There's no class on that. You have to know just by like trying stuff and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I'd even say it requires confidence that you'll just figure it out.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, you kind of just have to know that you'll figure it out.
It's like, if you can learn 3D modeling or programming, you're going to set up Zendesk. Fine.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If you can Google your way out of a hole, you're going to be okay.
Even if you know everything you already need to know, it's still probably going to suck for a while.
For like a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks. Like, I don't know how else to put this. Starting a company, especially the company side of it, it sucks. It like super sucks.
It's like fun to show up to a family event and give an update on how things are going.
Yeah.
But like the first 2 years they were rewarding for filling. They were not fun.
They were not even remote. Well, it depends. It's like there's two types of fun. Type 1 fun is fun while you're having it. It's roller coaster fun. It's party fun. Type 2 fun is fun looking back, but it sucks in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of type 2 fun. Like a lot of sleeping over at the office, working crazy long hours trying to get stuff done, stuff not working, being incredibly stressed, feeling like we're going to lose money. The whole thing's going to collapse, blah, 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 blah. I mean, incredible stress. I thought I was stressed at my like crazy job that I work flying all over doing these crazy gigs. That's nothing. I mean, like it pales in comparison to what this feels like.
I think about what Claire says about her PhD program and PhD prospects. You have to be crazy to do it.
Yes. There has to be a fair amount of hubris and like insanity to make the decision to do this thing that like we were holistically not qualified for.
Yeah.
And like really knew that we were up against a crazy mountain of work and luck to get it to happen. And even now, where like things feel way more stable, there's still a crazy amount of luck ahead of us and a crazy amount of work to continue to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. I mean, it's a lot.
The constant gamble, kind of fueled by confidence that like we're gonna end up better for all this than we would have been if we just stayed at Formlabs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Or like part of it too is like I never would have forgiven myself if I didn't try.
Yeah, definitely that too.
And also, even though it's really sucks, like I wouldn't trade this for the world. I even if it always sucks, I love it.
Yeah.
But like we didn't pay ourselves for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We were living on ramen in my house for a really long time, just trusting that we were going to figure the whole thing out.
Yeah, I think wasn't like the Patreon went towards that mortgage and electric, and like
yeah, honestly, my Patreon kept Opulo afloat and the house and feeding me and keeping the house purchased and electricity and my water bill and like. It literally paid for Opulo for all of 2021 and part of 2022. And in housing both of us for like 2 years was from like my patrons. Mm-hmm. What a blessing that we had that and like that it let us go there. Yeah. It was crazy.
I'm sure some of them are listening too.
Yes. If you're a part of that, thank you. There's also like, depending on the scale that you grow to, like if it's just you and it's like a single person operation, you just have to worry about your own stuff. But like Opulo's gotten to a point where like we have a head count. People pay their mortgage, feed their families with the money that we make making these pick and place machines. And like that weighs incredibly heavily on me. That is a huge point of stress that is pretty all consuming. So like think a lot about your scale and what it will feel like to you to have this weight of like the decisions you make affect a lot of people's lives. And that's huge. Be present with the weight of that possibility, because that is very much going to be what your existence is all about. Constantly. It will be about that.
Yeah. For me, it feels like the higher highs and lower lows.
Yes.
Because like the threat is way more existential. Things can affect more than just my career.
Yes.
Like, there's immense pride in being able to cover someone's paternity leave, but there's also that constant fear, like you said, of not being able to make payroll.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's a lot. There's no really other way to say it. So that's huge. That's a really big part of this. There's also other things that suck. You're just going to have a lot of hours of work that's not fun. Like, especially when we were doing kitting. Oh my gosh, the amount of time we spent doing that. There's just a lot of work that isn't fun. That's part of it. But like you signed up for it and you kind of have to follow through on a lot of it. And yeah, you just have to suck it up and do it.
Yeah, I remember like 2,000 pieces of aluminum extrusion just showed up covered in dust, like static clinging dust.
And we had to buy a air compressor and just blast all the dust off the extrusion for like 3
Lord of the Rings book.
Thank you. 3 Lord of the Rings books worth. And Jaden helped out with that.
Yeah.
We were just, oh, that was miserable. That was like actually the worst. That was so bad.
We might have to do that next week.
All right. Well, but like, that's it, right? Yeah. Like we might have to do that next week. All right. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to go in the back room and I'm going to put in my freaking headphones. I'm going to air compress dust off, 200 aluminum extrusions. Cause you just have to do it.
Yeah. Sometimes we just have to be reactionary to stuff and it's like not always pleasant.
It's not always fun.
Yeah.
And you got to be super okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend reading The Dip by Seth Godin. I recommend this book to a ton of people. It's an incredibly quick read. The thesis is like, is the juice worth the squeeze? It's summarized in that sentence. There's a dip of frustrating crap before you get to the other side of whatever task you're about to do. Learning piano. What's the dip? You're going to have to commit a lot of hours to learning piano. What's on the other side? You get to play piano really well. Is that value enough to be worth getting through this trough of pain and difficulty? Be very present with yourself about your dip. I highly recommend reading this book. Read it, assess it about this pursuit you'd like to tackle. Because that's a lot. You're going to spend a lot of time working, a lot of money put into this. The other thing is like, there's tens of thousands of dollars into starting this whole thing.
Yeah, both of us in some way.
Yes. And like also a lot of money that we raised that let us make this thing happen. And you may not raise money. You may not choose to raise money. You may not be able to raise money. And you're going to have to put more of your own money into this whole thing. And like, how much do you want to go down that path? How much of your own personal equipment do you want to put towards production of this? It's just a lot of sacrifice. So like, we're not saying this to dissuade you from doing it, but like, you better be real sure that you're stoked to dive into this thing, because it's not going to be super fun for a lot of it. Like, you really got to want to pursue this thing and make sure that you can get through the dip.
Completely agree. Yeah. If some idea of venture is not something you're obsessed with, that you'd happily do unpaid, really think about if it's a good fit.
Exactly. Like, yeah, that's a great way to think about it, is like, if tomorrow Opula went under, like the selling pick and places entity, I would find a way to continue to support Source. Like, it's making YouTube videos again, and I keep the Source alive. Like, even if the company goes under, it's like, no, I'm still finding a way to continue this thing. It doesn't matter. Like, would you do it for free? That's such a great way to think about it. It's like, you gotta love it. Otherwise it can really suck.
Like, towards all this, like, our friend Thea ran a very successful hardware company, and when it stopped being fun, she wound it down. And like, I think that's based. Yeah,
that's based as hell. And now Opula employee Thea, not only friend, but also works at Opula. And that's a super healthy relationship with like, what's fun about it. And like, if you're not feeling, I would still do this for free, stop. And that's actually a huge part of what's in the dip. Is Seth Godin talks about, like, if you're like in the dip and you're like, I'm not getting as much out of this as I want, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, quit. it's great to do that because it saves your energy for something else. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, I don't know. And also maybe it just sucked a lot more for us than it might for you. Maybe it's going to suck a lot more. We also got lucky, like we said at the top of this, but it was also still a lot of work. It's going to depend on your circumstances, it's going to depend on your industry and all these other things, but like be ready for it to suck because chances are it's going to suck for a while.
I think we played on hard mode without needing to in funny ways.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you think?
I don't know, like trying to force your garage into working when you have open rooms in your house that were heated.
I guess so. Yeah, we probably could have moved into the house, but that was just us being stupid.
Yeah, we really wanted to do the garage startup.
Yeah, I think that was just us being stupid.
Yeah.
What's the difference between doing something in hard mode versus us just being clowns?
Like me spending 3-4 months on packaging design when there's 0 reports of shipping damage thereafter.
That was just us learning, though.
8 weeks on a test jig.
Yeah, we made some
mega brain.
We made a lot of mistakes, and I still hate that jig more than life. I don't hate life. What am I saying? I still hate that jig a ton, even though we spent so much time on it.
Yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with it, but like mistakes will happen, and just make sure they're recoverable.
Yeah, make sure they're recoverable. So that's a lot of like getting going and starting out, and also not to continue to dissuade you from starting your own thing, but like Opulo is this April will be 4 years old legally, like officially. And it still kind of sucks. Like, it's not like it gets that much easier. Like some things have gotten easier, but the stress, the weight of the thing, the difficulty in making decisions, the anxiety about, money coming in, paying people's bills, all this kind of stuff, having to deal with problems that are like very difficult and there isn't a good answer for, and sometimes you have to brute force them. That doesn't go away. And like, honestly, they probably won't for a while still longer. Like Opulo has to be quite a bit bigger before that stuff kind of melts away a little bit. And even then, I don't think it ever will fully,
Like if as the scale goes up, the highs will get higher, the risks of lows get lower.
Yes.
Like,
And I mean, even our friend Chris at CNC Labs.
Same stress. Like resource allocation will still feel thin at 200 people.
Yes. Yeah. Because the reason you hired those 200 people is to make 200 people's worth of machines.
Yeah.
And like,
you're not gonna be able to afford to have 300 people when you need 200.
Right.
It's still gonna be everyone's doing what they can to keep the ship from sinking.
Yes. Yes. So like, I hesitate to tell people there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's if you're in charge of a big ship, that's a lot of responsibility. If you don't like that, then great. Be honest with yourself about that. And maybe it's not for you. Or maybe you do this in a way that's way less stress. Maybe you still have a full-time job and it's only for fun. Awesome. That's fantastic. Do it that way then. But like, you just have to be really honest with yourself about like, do I want to take on this stress? Because it's a lot. It's like, it's all consuming. So you just got to be ready to deal with that kind of thing. And if you don't like it, it's okay. Change your scope. That's what you should do. It's about doing something that makes you happy, is ultimately what all this comes down to.
I remember in Q4, for example, of the holidays approaching, I was like panicking over the sales volume and meeting our expectations with the labor staffing we had. And like, it was not fun.
No, it was not fun.
To clutch it and be able to like carve out some time for a quick vacation at the end of the year. But took weeks and weeks and weeks of stress to just even see the light at the end of that particular tunnel.
Right. Yeah. In a way that doesn't feel like once the clock is done, you can like clock out.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of always thinking about it.
And at the end of the year, there was just more work to do. Like,
yeah. Yep. It doesn't go away.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So
you have to like it.
You have to like it. You have to like the fact that it sucks is kind of like the best way to say it. Like it's kind of always going to be there. You have to be so excited about the idea that you're doing this thing. And like, it feels fun dealing with these problems, and that vibes with how you operate. Again, at the scale we're operating at, there's other ways that you can still move hardware and start communities and stuff in ways that don't feel stressful. But like when you have a large team that's relying on you, it feels different.
Yeah. We have a buddy in Open Hardware that only does things as long as they're fun.
Yes.
And like, they had to have a way different relationship with work to achieve that. They don't even work on their project full time, even though they have employees. And it's an incredible thing. Yep. And like maybe people can have a healthier relationship to it than we might.
Than we do, yeah. Yeah, honestly, we might be like showing our whole ass here by talking about it this way, because it's like, Maybe it's completely unnecessary for some reason that we don't know. Like, I don't know. This is just our experience. Like, maybe we're super off base or weird or like not normal in this way of it feeling this hard and this stressful. And I don't know. A lot of people say that this stuff is hard, but we also know people that do it in a way that's only fun. So I don't know. Maybe we're just doing some masochistic crap that like we don't have to be doing. I don't know.
I'd love to get schooled on it.
Yeah, I would too. I would too.
Our friends Chris, to bring it back up again, and so like one of the best things they did as their like fifth hire was like an operations manager, almost like a general manager.
Yeah.
And that took a lot of the weight off their shoulders.
All right. So part 3 is about actually executing on it and like ways that you make this thing kind of come to fruition. And I think probably one of the more important things about keeping the ship sailing the right way is balancing staying flexible while also staying on the path that you've laid out. So a lot of people will tell you what to do or how you should go about doing things. And sometimes they're super right and sometimes they're super wrong. And it's your job to filter the feedback that you get and be like, yeah, you know what? That's good. And be flexible and open to new ideas, but also stay really true to the things that are unwavering, that are non-negotiable for you. And always be reassessing if the things that are quote unquote non-negotiable actually should be changed. Mm-hmm. Like it's so, I cannot stress enough how difficult this is. I might have in my head of like, it's super important that we do X, Y, Z. And everyone tells me no, but the fact that I still think that we should be doing that is why Opulo is successful. It's like sometimes saying no to everybody is the way something is successful. And other times that's just me being stubborn and I should have changed my mind. But knowing the difference is what makes you successful.
Maybe
you know?
It's even like being humble when a change of course is obvious and it's required and immediately known, or you can see it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like staying flexible here really means like completely severing your ego from your earlier decisions. So great example of this happening is like when we were working on the launch video for V4 this past September in 2024. And I thought I knew exactly what the launch video should be like. And we asked our landlord if we could use an empty suite above us. And like, he let us use the space. And I did this whole film shoot thing and I had my shot list and I made this whole video. I spent hours editing it and I'm super proud of it. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly what it is. And Lucian sends it to our buddy Ro and he gets back to us and he's like, guys, this is all wrong. This is completely wrong for XYZ reason.
He's like, it's pretty, but all wrong.
It's pretty, but it's completely wrong. And I went through all 5 stages of grief in about 20 minutes. I was like, he's wrong. I was like, no, it's still right. And I'm like, well, I'm like bargaining. I'm like, well, we could salvage it XYZ, blah, 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 blah. And what I remember happening is I put on my headphones and I was quiet, like thinking for like 10, 15 minutes. And I kind of peeked my head. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm wrong. It took me 20 minutes, but like,
I just gave him a hug.
Yeah, I was really sad actually. Cause then I had to like, it was like an extra 60 hours of work that I had to do or something like that. And launch was like imminent. I was like, oh, cool. I'm not going to sleep for the next 2 weeks. But what I realized in that devastating 20 minutes where I was like, okay, I am wrong. We shouldn't launch with this video. Ro is right. And we all want the same thing. We want launch to go well. So let me put my ego aside of being super loud and like, I know exactly what it is. You're wrong, buddy. You're super, put that aside. What do we want? We want the best video to go out. That's what we should focus on. And like, you got to separate yourself from your ego. It took me 20 minutes because I was really heartbroken about it. But ultimately, once I realized that he was right, it's like, okay, yeah, we got to reshoot this whole thing. Like it was completely wrong. So, but that's really hard to do. It's hard to like be told you're wrong and not be like, screw off, you know, like you have to be centered about it. You have to listen for the value of the thing and really assess independently from how you feel about it and do the thing that makes the most sense. But if I disagreed with Ro and I really did think it was the best video, I would say, no, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to post this video. Making that decision is incredibly difficult. Like knowing when to get rode by a thing. We call it the Rowaning, when he just like nuked me from orbit and made me very sad for like 36 hours. And I love Ro to death. He was so right. And it's honestly meant the world for the Lumen. But man, it was rough getting there.
I don't think we've talked to him since.
We should.
We owe him a call back.
I will call him with my tail between my legs. You were so right, bro. Thank you. But yeah, so that's really hard to find that balance. And that's all about the execution is like, am I right? Am I trusting myself here? And I truly just think everyone else is wrong, or is it the other way around? And, you know, I'm just a clown and I'm being stubborn and I need to listen to other people.
And it reinforced for me a different lesson, probably shared by us to some extent, of like nothing, don't treat anything like it's sacred, immutable, or like can't be changed.
Yes. Everything can kind of be up for debate. Most things. Some things are not, but most things are. Yeah.
Theater communication protocol. We're not debating that.
Yeah, that's not changing. At least not for a very, 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 very long time. Another huge point for execution is listening to customers. This is so intrinsic to like making sure that you're making the right thing. We already kind of talked about this, about like you need to like get it out into the world and like hear what people are saying. But actively, as you're executing, as you're growing this thing, it should be the strongest signal about what you're working on as you're getting going, especially in the early days when what you're putting out the door is like probably very, very far off of what people want. When you're getting going, you need to be so dialed in to what your early users, your early community members are saying, because that is the strongest signal you will get. And following that should be so close to like where you should be spending your time.
Mm-hmm.
This means interviewing customers, collecting a lot of feedback, making Pareto charts of like what is the most frequent complaint, making sure that's your number one focus and that's what you're fixing next. Lot goes into this as well, but like talking to your customers, your community members, the end result, the end user of whatever you're doing constantly, and making sure you're addressing any of their problems that they have is like so much of the iteration cycle of running the ship, you know?
Completely agree. And towards that too, staying in touch with the customer support tickets, like even you did the bulk of them early on.
Yes.
Or we had Mitchell on board,
Mm-hmm.
and the logisticsy ones would be tossed to me. And like it gave us our hand on the pulse of exactly what people were having issue with.
Yep. And even still, like if something weird happens in our customer support line, I immediately know about it. Like Mitchell lets me know about it. I meet with Mitchell all the time about if weird things are happening, or like we're very, very closely tied to like what's happening with the customers in the community and all that stuff. So that's super important. And that should dictate what are you working on engineering and like product wise, almost 100%. That's such a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
This is another specific thing Oppa OG called out of like, how do you balance like company logistics versus the engineering? It's just impossible. There's really no such thing as like, Lucian and I have this joke of everything's important. It's like, oh, what do we do first? Well, it's all kind of important. You just need to find which one is more important.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm trying to think how I feel about that. Yeah, everything's important. Things are of equal importance. I pick what I'm feeling the most drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
And once I get that momentum, I can carry it into the next task.
Yeah, I think it's a function of what is the most important and also what has not been touched in a while. Because if you're always picking the most important thing, a lot of other things that are still important, but not the most important, will atrophy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, no matter how on fire production is, you need to pay rent. Like it's the first of the month, you got to write a rent check. Like that's not negotiable. You always have to do, there's some baseline things you always have to do. So yeah, it's just really hard to do it. I don't really have a good rule for this. It's like what moves the needle the most for any given day is kind of the best way to handle it. I really don't have good advice for this. It's like, just do your best. Combate.
Yeah, a lot of things we've tried have been eviscerated. Like, oh, engineering Thursdays. No, sometimes you need to debug something on production, or we don't really have direct control over our schedules.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. A lot of it is reactionary. I don't know. And a lot of it is not reactionary too. So like for the time that isn't reactionary, you do your best to balance what's the priority, what's the most important for the company to be doing, for you to be doing, for other people to come to be doing, and trying to optimize for making that work as smoothly as possible. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't work on, I made very few YouTube videos when we were prepping V4 because it took a lot of my time. At that point in time, that was the most important thing, you know, and YouTube videos faltered. That was the structure at that point. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just, I wish I could have done them both. I couldn't. I only have so much time. I have to sleep and eat, you know, like I can't do more than that. So you just got to pick a balance.
Yeah. I think back to art school a little bit here too, of like, there's never enough time to make the perfect thing.
Yeah.
They're just having like acceptance criteria, knowing when something's good enough is important here too. Like you cannot be a perfectionist. What's that? I forget who said it. If I had more time, I'd write a shorter letter.
Oh yeah. I thought you were going to say perfect is the enemy of done.
Oh, that one's great too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think about the engineering of like get in, get out so I can do the operations, or it's like for operations, what do I get in, get out so I can do the next thing?
Yeah.
How do I keep the balls moving? It's juggling.
It's juggling.
Yeah.
It is juggling. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what ball have I not touched in a while? And also what ball is about to fall and I need to catch it, you know?
Yep.
It's all kind of the same thing.
I agree.
Same thing with balancing your work and your life. And this is like a chronic intrinsic problem with like entrepreneurship and starting your own thing.
I suspect many people listening will relate to this.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah. And this is something I am in no place to be giving advice on, of like having a work-life balance. I'm very bad at this. I don't balance life and work well. Like, so much of my existence is tied up in this company. And I don't think that's good. It's not good. Like, I should be better about it, but it's like very difficult when you spend a lot of time working on a thing. It's very important to you. You know, a lot of my motivational structure and like what gives me joy and fulfillment is tied into working on this stuff. So it's really hard. This is going to be a tough part about it. If you really get into this, you know, in some way, shape or form for the past, 7 years, 8 years, I've been working and trying to make this thing exist. It's hard for me to be like, yeah, I'm just not going to touch it this weekend. That's really hard. Yeah. That's really, really difficult. Try though. Yeah. You got to try.
And I think if it's something early on, maybe there's an employee or two already for someone's venture, understand and like be nice to yourself about the fact, like maybe you just need to take a weekend once a month. Like it might just be bad for a little bit.
Yeah, it might be bad for a little bit. Like, but also there's a balance because like, especially in like middle of 2021, I just couldn't handle anymore. Like I hit my breaking point and I was like, okay. And I think it was like a Wednesday night. It was just like random. I was just like, I can't handle this right now. And I remember I texted you. I'm like, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I just need a day. Yeah. It was, I shattered. I mean, it was really bad, but I found my upper bound. So ideally you don't have to find your upper bound, because when you do, it's going to really suck. Yeah. And I hate to make light of how bad that was, but like, I have a much better idea about what my upper bound is. And I know to say, nope, I do need to take Sunday and not think about work if I feel like I'm getting to that point. But even then, that's just treading water. That's not thriving. It's surviving. So this is a really tricky thing. And it's something that you need to think about a lot. Otherwise, you will burn out. You will have an incredibly bad time and then won't be able to work for a while. And like, it sucks.
My bare minimum I've been trying to do for like balancing is like, I have a 12-hour rule that sometimes is a 10-hour rule if things are tight. But I try not to be back in the office within 12 hours of leaving. Yep. Like, that's pretty fair. Yep.
That's pretty fair. And I think I see you break it pretty often.
Yeah. That's why
probably 4 times a month, 5 times a month, maybe more than that.
I'm realizing I'm doing that, you know?
Yes. At least there's a rule, right?
Yeah.
I found that I need to take at least 1 day off every 2 weeks. So like I can work through a full weekend and then the next weekend I need at least 1 day that week. And like, that's my absolute max. I need 2 days a month. And like anything beyond that, I'm broken. And already that's crazy. That's completely unhealthy. So like, that's my like, we're about to launch a V4. I'm doing nothing but working. Well, that was even more than that. But you know what I mean? Like, it's good to have gradations of like, what's my necessity? You can even make simple rules that help. So like, you could have a rule like never work on Sundays. I never work after 7 p.m. no matter what. Thursday evenings, I don't schedule anything. It's just alone time for me or whatever, you know? Finding little structures like that can help, and making little rules has been kind of helpful for me, but I'm still pretty crap at it. Honestly, it's hard. It's hard to do it.
Neither Stephen or I have kids either. That's important. Like, I can't fathom doing any of this with a family like that I'm supporting and feeding.
Yes. I think
I wouldn't know how to.
I wouldn't either. Although I have, given that we don't have kids, we're not in a perspective where we know for sure, but I have read about entrepreneurs that have kids and families. And they talk about how like it helps them be better at this kind of thing. It depends though. I mean, like it depends on where you're at in your life. What's your value structure? Like, those things are important to me too, but like, we're still young. We got time. This is what's active right now. It depends on what you want, So like, I wouldn't let that keep you from doing something like this, because I know a lot of people do, and they're very successful with families that support them, and they just set these boundaries a little earlier, and maybe things grow a little slower, which is totally okay.
Yeah.
But you just got to be honest with yourself about like, what does that look like for you? And setting hard rules, because this kind of stuff causes problems if you do not keep it in check, Yeah. But setting rules like that is really good to force yourself to be a little more structured if you don't have the self-control,
Yeah. My 12-hour rule, and then the newer one is being out of town for 2 weeks at the end of the year. It's been kind of nice.
Yes. Yep. Forcing yourself to take a beat to just get out of the mix. Good. Yeah.
But yeah, a former boss and a close friend of Steven's at Formlabs told me work-life synergy. It's not one side's black, one side's white. They never meet. It's a melding of two things that gets kind of squished together. And you just have to figure out how to maybe take a break for dinner with your family and then get back to it, or like figure out what it is and like how will the synergy work for you. It's not going to be the same for any two people.
Yep. What is your value structure? Like Dean Kamen, the guy who started Segway and like all kinds of medical robots and stuff like that. He's a bachelor and he doesn't have any kids or a wife or like no direct immediate family like that. And that's his balance. And that's a lot, I think. But also like if that's what he wants, if that's what brings him joy, great. The whole point of doing this whole thing is being happy. Like is pursuing something that makes you feel fulfilled. Even if we talk a lot about how much it can suck depending on certain circumstances, but like, is it fulfilling? Does it make you happy as a person, even though it might be a little difficult at the time? Like, what does he want from this? What's his motivational structure? He wants to do it this way, and that's great. But it's also there's other ways to do it with a family, with kids, with other obligations. You can always make it work.
There is this cool example of like work-life balance and really rigid boundaries. I remember this musician was talking about working with Eminem in a recording studio, and they'd have this really cool idea, all this momentum at 4:30, and then 5 o'clock runs out. 5 o'clock comes up, he's going home for dinner.
Really?
Has to be his daughter. Yeah.
This is Eminem the rapper.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, he could be coming up with $1 million hits, like crazy hooks. But no, 5 o'clock, he's done.
Wow.
I think he said to the musician, he's like, you got to think of it like a job or you'll kill yourself.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Even just Tom Holland, the new Spider-Man, I saw him saying that like when he has kids, he's like, you will never see me again. I will go into a hole. I will be gone. I won't be in movies anymore. Like this is my new thing. And like, that's great. I think that's super cool. It's like, that's his balance. He chose to do it that way. And I think that's right.
I respect that. If he doesn't think he could balance two of those things to just focus on what's more important to him, is dick.
Yeah.
But like, at least ultimately for me, I wouldn't do something else right now. And even though finding the balance is tough, like I'm grateful to be able to choose it every day.
That's super true. Like as much as there can be parts about it that are very frustrating and difficult, it's also like, because we spend a lot of time like pooping all over like, oh, it sucks. It's also really fun. Like there's a lot of really, really cool things that come along with being able to run your own show. Like, yeah, it comes a lot of stress. You have to make all these decisions. You also get to make all the decisions.
Yeah.
And like, that's really fun. I mean, it's a high stress playground.
Yeah.
High risk playground. It's like the floor is lava, but the floor is actually lava. Like it is fun. Like we're playing this. It feels like Factorio in real life with way fewer rules and way higher stakes, and like we get to engage with this. We get to be creative. We get to be like, hey, make a noise there. We get to be like, hey, what if we did XYZ? And then we just get to do it.
Yeah.
And that's really, really cool. So like, it's not like it's not like it's all bad. Like I don't want to over-represent the fact that it sucks. There's parts of it that really suck. There's also, like you say, higher highs and lower lows. There are some parts of it that are like overwhelmingly cool.
Yeah.
Like the only reason we continue to do it is because in exchange for all the suck, it's also deeply awesome, So like, not trying to dissuade people from doing it. It's just like, be aware that there's a lot that's really going to stink, but man, when it works, it's really satisfying as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Anyone who gets into this, you're going to get what you asked for and more.
Of the good and the bad.
Yeah. It'll be a genie's witch.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's definitely two sides to the coin. It's very intense is probably the best summary. It's like the lows are very rough and it's very difficult to get through them. The highs are also exceptionally cool. And like, you have a lot of freedom. You get to decide what this looks like. That's great. Like that's also great. You just be ready for the intensity because it's intense. If you're going through this, and again, doing it at the scale that we are, there's ways to play the same game and get started with this kind of thing that's way less intense. And you can do it on the side and it's not paying your bills. You're not paying other people's bills. That greatly reduces the suck. And also may not even reduce the joy. Like it really depends on what your balance is for this. This is just our perspective on like the scale that we're at right now.
Something that's been really helpful for us on this is like creating community, an intentional community around people that do similar things.
Yes.
Just being able to like talk to someone else who's ran a hardware venture, runs one currently,
Mm-hmm.
and commiserate or ask them if they have the same problems or challenges or how they dealt with a situation. It's so useful.
It's so useful. Yeah. Having a little community of folks, of people in the same boat is imperative. It's really, really handy. So find your cohort, find the other people doing the similar kind of thing as you, and like stay in touch with them, ask them questions, engage with them. Like, it's very useful.
Yeah, it'll make the it'll make uncertainty a lot more like clear.
Yeah. It makes the uncertainty less uncertain.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. All right, folks, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to leave a review wherever you get your podcast. It helps us out a ton. You can learn more about Opulo at opulo.io, as well as YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. You can email us at podcast@opulo.io with questions or comments on the episode. To keep up to date with the podcast and Opulo, sign up for our newsletter where we write blog posts and conduct customer interviews with other folks building open hardware. That's it. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
I think all production techs should pick their nose before they build lumens in the morning.
Oh my god.
We want. Should I change this? Is this fine?
This is a stretch for Ohm, but you should keep it. I'm in for it.
This is a lot. Maybe I should change this example.
Take a second here. I would redo this.
I know I'm gonna hear myself say boogers on this episode somehow.